A History, Part 1. Exanos Prime. Long, gnarly-limbed trees climbed their way into the brilliantly lit Xicadian sky, while insectoids of every conceivable description crawled, hopped and slimed their way through the dense forest canopy. Set amongst this dense cacophony of life, a giant Xylineti wasp buzzed its way laboriously towards a cavernous hollow set deep into the base of a 1,000-year-old tree. Clasped within its powerful claws was a very large and very dead arachnid. Some distance back, and moving like a wave of whispering shadows, a blanket of 9-limbed spiders stealthily swept their way across the forest floor, guided by the scent from their fallen comrades' pheromone glands. The army of arachnoid warriors continued to relentlessly track the scent all the way to the cavernous entrance of the Xylineti hive, gathering in ever-increasing numbers around the base of the darkly infamous tree. An unusually large and powerful spider, marking it Xihari, pushed its way roughly through the mass of Xymateri warriors and towards the dark, gaping maw of the hive. He turned and rose up dramatically in order to address his army with a melodic sequence of chirps and clicks.
This forest has belonged to the Xylineti since the beginning of time itself, but their reign is at last coming to an end, and ours is just about to begin.
The army chirped riotously in reply to their Xihari general's prophetic words, as he immediately raised his 3 forelimbs high into the air. Xicanda waited patiently until the forest was once again filled with a deathly silence.
We have at long last discovered where our vile enemy slumbers. I promise you then that by the rise of another sun, the forest will belong to the great Queen Xiana.
The ground began to shake with the thundering rumble of bloodthirsty agreement.
Hear me now. The stupid and unthinking beast cannot fear what its own mind cannot see.
As the general continued to speak, he waved a ponderous forelimb towards the dark, gaping maw of the hive.
The Xylineti will fly mindlessly into the spear of their own demise, for it is in their nature to do so.
Xicanda now fell to a deathly silence, and as the army settled in to wait, a giant Xylineti drone flew into view, dragging a massive centipede laboriously behind it. The drone, upon observing the seemingly endless sea of arachnids, released the centipede from its grip and started to emit a piercing, high-pitched buzz while hovering in the air close to the mouth of the hive.
Behold the futility of a mind hopelessly trapped behind the walls of its own base instinct.
Xicanda bellowed vitriolically while pulling a long wooden spear capped with a sharp iron tip from the back plate of his thorax. Gripping it firmly with his centre and rightmost forelimbs, he took very careful aim before hurling the spear with such blinding speed and ferocity it cut straight through the abdomen of the drone like it wasn't even there. The hapless drone went into a furious death spiral, spinning its way chaotically down towards the forest floor, where it was instantly swarmed by an ocean of raging arachnids. The stinger of the dying wasp impaled and paralysed several nearby soldiers, and the severed leg of a nearby Xymateri warrior was sent cartwheeling up into the air. The heroic drone, still tenaciously clinging to life, used its double set of razor-sharp teeth to bite wildly at anything it could connect to. However, by virtue of sheer numbers, and aided by their new death-dealing weapon, the tide was quickly turned, and the wasp was soon shredded into thousands of tiny little pieces. When the minor fracas began to die down, the Xicari general again called out to his obediently loyal army.
Hear now the sound of their mindless rage. Remember it well, for it is the beating drum of their own coming doom.
An angry, rumbling buzz began to rise up ominously from deep within the heart of the ancient tree. And as the giant wasps began to emerge, they found themselves badly bottlenecked at the mouth of their very own hive. Most failed to make it out without first sustaining mortal wounds from the relentless barrage of endlessly thrusting spears. By the time the carnage was finally all over, bloodied mountains of shredded bodies, limbs, and wings lay stacked up against the base of the broken and battered tree. In one final act of theatrical violence, the now completely undefended Xylonetti queen was unceremoniously dragged from her imperial chamber. The defiant queen bravely resisted to the very last, even as her head was savagely torn from her still living body. The Ximotiri army, bearing witness to such a visceral coup de grace, began to chirp riotously, deeply intoxicated by their bloodlust. The Xicari general now surveyed his army with a considerable amount of pride.
Now allow me to show you.
The general called out fiercely.
Why mind defeats body.
Xicanda casually tossed the queen's head to a nearby soldier, taking his blooded spear in return. Grasping hold of the iron tip, he yanked it forcefully away from the base, then tore the point of a diamond-hard stinger from a dead Xylonetti drone. The general aggressively jammed the stinger back onto the end of the spear, impaling the queen's disembodied head upon it. Xicanda, now basking in his moment of triumph, held the head high into the air, theatrically swaying it from side to side for all to see. The forest was immediately filled with the deafening chittering echo of 1,000,000 chirping arachnids. As things slowly began to quieten down, the Ximotiri soldiers reluctantly began to disperse under the watchful gaze of their Xicari general. The head of the Xylonetti royal was duly taken back to their nest, whereupon it was presented to the multi-generational Xylectial queen, Xiana. The great queen always kept this most treasured prize very close to her throne, as a grand trophy of their historic triumph over the most fearsome arch-enemy their species would surely ever know.